Do we though?
Yeah, I don't really.
You know what I'm
It's
going
like
to do
we've had
after
7
this?
weeks to this. We've been in isolation for 7 weeks.
I'm only going to watch more Survivor after this, so this is keeping me from that. But apart from that, I have nothing really going on. So.
My participation has nothing to do with COVID.
Yeah. That is fair. That is fair. All right. Does someone want to count us in there, Junior?
Yeah, go for it. I started it and everybody started talking, so.
Junior, I have a, Junior. Okay, you screwed me again. All right, guys, welcome to Sykes' Survivor Talk episode. What did you say it was? Episode 7?
7.
Where we are discussing, and this is confusing, episode 7, we will be discussing episode 12 of season 40 of Survivor. Top story, obviously, tonight, Kim Spradlin-Wolf voted out of the show in a 5-3 vote, went gunning for Tony, made the idiotic mistake of telling Ben Driebergen what her plans were. Ben immediately turns around and basically screws over that group of people. So what do you guys think about the loss of Kim Spradlin-Wolf?
Well, I'm not happy about it because she's my last pool.
Oh, she was the last.
That's it. I'm out.
Last man standing. Oh, no.
Well, regardless of the outcome, Kim kind of had to do something in this spot, right? This is a perfect spot to go gunning for Tony. He happened to win immunity, but it was the correct play. It didn't work out her way, and she needed numbers on her side. So I guess that had to include Ben. It certainly couldn't have included Sarah, probably not Jeremy. So she needed to marshal enough people to do that, and it just kind of backfired.
Yeah, it was interesting to see the way Michelle voted. I'll get into that. I do think you can't really fault her for the move. Can she wait one turn, just go after Tony and make the move at 4 when Tony's really perceived as more of a threat? I think what hurt her maybe is that she was throwing Tony's name out there before the immunity. And Katelyn, you brought this up last night, so I'll give you credit for this point. If she waits till after immunity, she doesn't have to bring Tony's name up, and it's probably an easy Jeremy vote. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I also kind of feel like she shot herself in the foot by stepping down from the immunity challenge for cookies. Like, it's a $2 million decision. Sorry.
Shocking. Yeah, that's a really shocking move by somebody like that. And I don't know what, affect the elements or exhaustion or whatever have on your brain. I think that kind of stuff is overplayed. You see people sweating out there, but let's remember. Okay, Jeff goes into the challenge about, the first time we did this in season 3, it's a 6-hour challenge. And then we did it again. And I know that was Micronesia because I saw a clip of it the other day, season 16. But we added a little beam. It took an hour. 15 minutes is when he brought the peanut butter out. And then everybody jumps off. And basically he brought that peanut butter out and the challenge ended.
Yeah.
Denise won like that. He's like, oh, dude, what? And then Nick's like, oh, yeah, Tony, will you give me 1 fire token? Oh, yeah, okay. And then he's done. And that was the end of that challenge at 15 minutes, 30 seconds for a mountain of peanut butter.
So my question
favorite part
for that challenge was they could eat until the challenge was over.
Yeah.
Is that true?
And
that's what he said.
You'll be able to eat until the challenge is done. And so everybody jumps off, and then all of a sudden the 2 girls come down. Denise wins immunity, and then Nick drops. And it happened so fast. So I don't know if anybody actually ate anything.
I think Jeff kept letting them have it. I think he was just like, I don't know what to do. It's happened too fast.
Yeah, they didn't really.
They're softer on these fraternity seasons, so I'm sure they let them eat their fill.
Yeah, a lot of people haven't lost much weight.
No.
So nobody who's still in the game has really lost a noticeable amount of weight. Did you see Danny Boatwright on the edge of extinction?
Yeah, she's lost a lot of weight.
Dude. Yeah, and Boston Rob.
Has Boston Rob? He's still. I thought he still looked pretty.
He's still
doughy.
Chubby.
Yeah.
He's still got a little bit of the, hanging
man boobs.
Hanging just like loose skin more. Like he's not as full.
Yeah.
I don't know. He looked to me like between last episode and this episode, he lost like 10 pounds. But, I don't want to body shame Boston Rob or anybody else, but I don't think they eat very much out there at all. Because, they don't eat much, they don't do much all day until they have to run. We'll get to this coconut challenge. Let's finish the tribal talk because I am interested in getting to the, the edge of extinction piece. So we had 5 votes for Kim, 3 votes for Jeremy. What did you guys think of that tribal? I thought it was better that they had the subtitles. I was so thankful that they had the subtitles,
Yeah.
and so we could at least get a little bit. They had a nice pre-game or tribal council lead into the tribal council, and then we had a lot of chit-chatting going on, but at least it was subtitled. I kind of think going into that tribal that it was going to be a Jeremy vote. I do think Ben, if you watch it again or twice more like I did, Ben is dead set on Jeremy. And Tony approaches him during that tribal and is like, vote for Kim. And he's like, no, I'm not doing it. And then eventually somehow he gets persuaded to do it. And, you know, I don't need to be privy to every single thing that happens. And I like the amount of subtitling that I got. I think they mic'd them up, or they've obviously done something different to give us a little bit of insight there. I don't know. You guys like the tribal?
Ryan, my thoughts are Jeff needs to clamp down on that. I find that it gets kind of boring. That after a bit, you're like, oh wait, they're gonna scramble. Like my favorite part was when Denise finally, just kind of gave a little day, like, okay, can we just get on with it already? And like everyone's like, hey, calm down, sister. And she's like, no, like.
I was actually quite happy she did that, because I don't know. To be honest, I'm tired of the endless whispering and like, can we just get to the vote?
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind it if it actually has consequences to people scrambling that, but I guess I disagree with your perspective, Ryan. I thought that vote had to be fairly ironclad in order for Jeremy to not use the 50-50 and order for Sarah to not have the vote, Tony's immunity used on her. You don't take chances if it's up in the air and you're relying on the word of Ben in a last-second decision. I just think that there must have been something the edit didn't show us in terms of these five were locked in.
I feel like it was ironclad, but it became so during that tribal council, and that's not what we were privy to. Because literally, Tony goes up to Ben and says, "Here, we're switching the vote to Kim," and as long as the subtitling is correct, he's like, "No, I'm not doing it." Right, early on in that tribal. I also think Nick switched during that tribal, and I get what you're saying. I do really want to discuss how those two had the nerve to not play the advantages. Because I don't think Sarah was ever under the gun.
Go ahead and just defend a little bit about the whispering.
Sure. Takes.
I think that for the most part, they're not all together and they're not conspiring. They're always pulling each other off one-on-one. And so this is the first time that they get a chance to read the room, read everyone else, actually see reactions, see faces. So there is going to be moments where they're like, oh, I just saw a tell. And so then they're going to have to whisper, or they're going to have a conversation. So it makes sense that it's happening because they're not really able to read the room and read the reactions of everybody else until that moment. So even though it's kind of annoying and it doesn't make for riveting television, I understand totally why it's happening.
Yeah, I think it also makes for better television than Jeff fishing for people's analogies on the game of Survivor. That gets really old really fast, right? So is this preferable to that? I think so.
I think if you go back and watch season, 6 or something, or season 12, you're going to see a lot of really straightforward Jeff questioning the participants, the survivors, them giving some answers. There's very little interplay between any of the survivors at all. And I think it might be a little sleepy. I think there needs to be some reining in to an extent, perhaps. I mean, I think even Jeff, I don't know, was Jeff being all kind of passive aggressive there? He was like, Tony, coming around third, and then, slide into home. And then
he was enjoying it.
I don't know. I can't tell.
I think he enjoys that stuff because to him, it's so chaotic. People are moving around. He doesn't know what's going on. They don't know what's going on. They're talking to people. Who are we voting for? I think he likes it.
I hope it's kind of torture for him, personally.
One thing that got to me a little bit as I rewatched the show was we're hearing a lot more of the jury kind of mumbling and almost interacting with the survivors, and I don't like that at all. Maybe one little comment. We used to kind of hear that here and there, but now we hear their voices. It always used to be kind of muted. They would subtitle it. And Rob's little comment at the end, like, oh, that Tony's a real boss. Like, oh, Tony's a real, I can't do the boss and Rob right now. Okay, but, the constant little, I don't know how much I love that. I do agree with Grant. I think some of this is actually kind of interesting. We'll talk a little bit about Cagayan later. We went back and watched season 28. We can talk about the tribals there just a bit. And there was some whispering happening there and some conversations, and a lot of those tribals were live, and I like those. It's gotten a bit, I don't know, the weeks where there was no subtitling pissed me off. This, I was on board with. I enjoyed it. Yeah, I thought it was fun. So that's our tribal. I think the reads by Tony reads people like nobody I've ever seen.
Yeah.
You know, I do think Sarah has really good reads on people as well. Interesting, going back to watch Cagayan, I'll have a little more to say about Sarah's reads, because she didn't do that great in that season. It's interesting.
These people got to work on their line skills, though. Nick was brutal.
Oh my gosh, that was painful to watch.
Nick's like some kid in elementary school who, like, he flooded the toilet,
right?
And he ran away, and the teacher's like, "Nick, did you flood the toilet?" Maybe I saw. Really bad. And this guy's won a series of the show, and it was.
Did you flood the toilet in elementary school?
I mean, on purpose, multiple times. That was a fun thing to do, but I blew up a few toilets here and there too. Mild explosive devices, but not during class time. Anyway, I can't be saying this stuff live on the air. This is going to at least 3 people on YouTube. So I got to get discovered here. So this was an episode where, okay, so Sarah doesn't play the idol. Paul says ironclad vote. I don't think Sarah's in. I think Sarah reads at least that she's not in any trouble. I think Kim comes up to her. I kind of got this on the 3rd time. Kim comes up to her and says, "Hey, what's going on?" And Sarah says, "Oh, I think they're coming after me." At first, I thought Sarah actually thought that. Now I kind of think she was trying to throw Kim off because they were gunning for Kim. She said,
yeah,
it might be me or whatever.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Sarah knew she was safe, though. I think otherwise she doesn't do it. Jeremy, I have no idea.
Yeah,
that's Jeremy. Also, we've often said has a very good read. Go ahead, Craig.
You could hear Tony when Jeremy was struggling whether to play it or not. Tony looking at him and saying, "If you voted the way I told you we were going to vote, then you're good. You don't need to play it."
Right.
Basically. So I guess he voted the way that they said they were going to vote and decided not to play it.
I don't know, you guys, would you play that 50-50? Because I'm pretty sure I'm playing that.
I'm playing because it's not even mine to begin with.
Oh yeah, what's there to lose? He's risking somebody else's advantage. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Oh, exactly.
I'm still confused though. Maybe you can explain this now, but why didn't they get Michelle to vote with them? Like, they were scrambling to get extra people, and she was obviously willing because she gave the 50-50. Like, I just don't understand. It would have been an easy 5-4. They wouldn't have even had to convince Ben.
Yeah, that's a good point. Only 8 people left in the game. I think it would have been 50-50, right?
But Michelle and Nick's game is a complete mystery to me. Like, I don't know exactly what they're doing. And even this vote with Michelle, I mean, why bother voting for Jeremy?
But if there was if the votes were 5-3, so 5 to vote Kim, 3 to vote Jeremy, and one of those was Michelle.
Exactly.
Like, and she thought she was voting Jeremy because she wanted to be on the majority, I guess, but she didn't need to be.
Exactly.
She didn't want to vote Jeremy.
No.
So why doesn't
he would have known that?
Why was she out of the loop?
Yeah, and he would have known that easily because she gave him the token, or whatever you want to call it, the flippy thing.
Right.
The 50-50 advantage. Legendary 50-50 advantage.
Yeah, so why didn't they be like,
better?
Unless it's because she was also aligned with, they didn't want her to know that they were going after Kim.
I think, it's interesting. I think it's to her benefit to vote that way. I think if the vote ends up being Kim, she's given Jeremy this advantage, and she looks good to them. If the vote ends up being Jeremy, what am I?
But who's she saving that relationship with? It's just Denise who voted that way.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't quite understand.
Why wouldn't Tony go up to her minutes before and be like, "This is what's happening. Switch your vote and solidify it even further." And then Jeremy doesn't have to use the flippy thing, and then you can have it back, like you did last.
Yeah.
I just don't get it.
It doesn't make a lot of sense.
I am a little lost on that one.
Yeah,
because
and they had to convince Ben over and over and over. So just, okay, fuck you, Ben. Michelle's in.
They had 4-4. They had for sure Jeremy, Michelle. This is what I don't get. Jeremy, Michelle, Tony, Sarah. For sure, that's 4.
Yeah, exactly.
No, they stand solid. No one's going to rocks at this point. Not those players. They're not going to rocks. So someone's going to come over. Ben's going to come over real easy if he thinks it's going to rocks. So I didn't quite understand what happened, but I'm not disappointed with the result.
Yeah. I don't really understand what happened with Nick and stuff either, because I feel like he was trying to align with Denise and everything to go to the final 3, and it's just like, now you're going completely back on your word anyways. And like him and Michelle seemed to have this like hidden alliance where they were voting together, and all of a sudden it's like back to Jeremy, and so I just feel like he's flip-flopping all over the place too. Like, I just don't get it.
Nick's going to align with whoever talks to him last. That's Nick's strategy. So
yeah, Ryan, he's reminding me of someone that I'll bring up later.
The other thing about the show is that, and someone said it on that episode, like, you tell everybody, yes, you'll do that. So the camera, like the crew probably has so much footage of everybody saying, yes, they're going to do something with someone else. They throw those things in the edit to throw you off of who's with who and what the actual plans are, because everybody's saying they're on board with what everybody else is telling them they're going to do.
Except Ben and Jeremy.
Yeah.
So here's something
Ben
that
and everyone.
Is that there's a lot of talk about how Jeremy is a huge threat. We absolutely can't go to the end with Jeremy. Jeremy's going to win the game. What has Jeremy done?
No.
I'd take Jeremy to the end. He hasn't made any moves.
So likable.
He's a very likable guy. People absolutely like him. You see the jury over there. Boston Rob's like, that Tony's a real boss. He's saying, look at that Jeremy. He didn't do that flippy thing. What a baller move.
Anything but walk away. Use that one advantage to walk away from. He really hasn't done anything.
Right.
Which, that's a good move, but it's not
for sure.
Game-changing. Well, it was for Jeremy, I suppose.
It was for him.
Yeah.
Sometimes when that narrative gets set really early on, though, right, where someone established says that this person's a threat, everyone kind of jumps aboard that. No matter what happens henceforth, you're still perceived as the threat, even though your game doesn't necessarily reflect that.
You just pile on so that they are considered the threat, and you.
Yeah, there's a lot of that too.
Well, they were saying that on episode 1. It's just like him and Natalie had this relationship, and they had to be broken up right away because they were both threats. I'm like, that was episode 1, and he's still here. So obviously, it was her that was the threat. But
somebody else got close to him too, and they voted them out. I can't remember who that was, but remember they were
right. Jeremy wanted to.
Oh yeah, it was Wendell.
Wendell, right.
Yeah, it's weird because Jeremy's game when he won wasn't the best game ever played. I think it has more to do that Jeremy, I'm guessing, is very active in the Survivor community and has a lot of ties. I'm guessing is probably more of the reason for the threat level.
Yeah, and people do like him quite a lot. He's a likable man. He was at the live podcast that I went to. Jeremy was there, and there were so many people there. But amongst them was Jeremy, and everyone's talking to him, and he's got people around him all the time, and it's really great to see those guys in real life. I think that probably sums it up for Tribal. Do you guys have any more points? I mean, the one thing
there was just the one Denise thing with
right,
where Jeremy was like,
sure you want to do that?
You sure you want to do that? Like, yeah, like I'll get you through now, but like,
you're not immune next week.
On that
was a pretty gangster thing to say.
Totally. What, by Denise or by Jeremy? Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Maybe that tees it up for easy Denise vote next week.
Yeah.
They leave that in. One other thing I kind of thought, you guys are all right. There's endless footage of people saying yes, and it's hard to figure out what's going on. But we can all maybe agree that Tony, again in this episode, comes away looking like the hero. They have mountains of footage. Are the producers just saying, man, we gotta set Tony up as the winner for this thing and give him the winner kind of an edit? Or is he just doing that on his own?
How many of the interviews did they have, or the testimonials did they have with them? Like last week, it was like 19 or something like that. Do you know how many it was last night? Because they were going pretty heavy as well.
Shoot, I did check to this morning actually in the confessional count. Right now, Tony's confessional count for the season is at 48. The next closest is Adam at 36. Tony did set the record for all-time confessionals in one season last week with 18 confessionals in one episode, which is bonkers. I don't know how anyone other than Tony, with an outside shot of Sarah, Jeremy wins the show. this point, but we saw Chris Underwood come back and win it. So that it's
Yeah.
with 5 hours of Survivor left, you can play your ass off in 5. I mean, we're going on and on about Tony. He's played 2 amazing hours of Survivor. We have 5 hours to go.
I think this might be it's so heavily slanted in favor of a Tony edit that I think it might be a red herring at this point. Just like the Devin, like, you know, if you will go back 2 seasons, Devin got a ton of screen time. Right, going in the last, you know, several episodes, and then he ultimately ended up finishing 4th, I think.
Devins was for sure the star of that season, and if he's in the final, Devins wins by a landslide. Right?
Yeah.
But do we want to watch confessionals with Nick? Seriously, or Michelle? Is that going to make us happy? Like, we want to see Ben ramble on for 5 minutes. Like, they're just like these people are idiots, and like at least Tony's an entertaining idiot. Let's put him on camera more.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree 1,000%. I'm a huge Tony fan.
Adam this episode. He had 2 lines. I think he had 2 lines the entire show. One was, "How did you do that?" when Wendell jumped over a bunch of rocks. And then at Tribal, he was like, "What just happened?" Those were the only 2 things that he had in that episode, and I love it.
That is probably a good point to start talking about the lamest segment in this season of Survivor. Was this?
You want to jump to the edge of extinction?
I don't know. It was a good segue.
Sure. All right. Let's jump into Edge of Extinction. We have fire tokens, a tremendous challenge via a coconut run. You have to get 20 coconuts from the ass end of the beach and bring them back as fast as you can. 5 people aren't going to get the 2 tokens. 6 people are going to get 2 tokens. Okay. Paul thinks this is lame. Paul, start us out here. What do you think?
Well, it's been an inordinate amount of time on something that probably not going to factor much into that game. And also we really had to watch like the Boston Rob hero narrative where he's still trying despite busting his elbow, and
that was a bit much.
That was a bit much, right?
This is the Boston Rob retirement party. Come on.
It pretty much is.
Sure.
You know he's doing it just for like the viewers at home, right? This has nothing to do like he is to keep some sort of legacy. Because you got to quit doing this, right? Like why would you still be going after the challenge is over?
I wrote down here, why does Rob finish? And, you know, Amber's like, he's a competitor, and somebody else, Wendell's like, you know, he's got too much pride or whatever. Here's what I wrote down. It's because he's on TV.
Yeah.
Well, that's Boston Rob. He wants to get camera time, and he's on TV.
That's his job.
Amber, I'm gonna walk down, gonna get the coconuts.
I think
why doesn't he like clean his arm off? He's got to leave the blood on there dripping down his finger for the entire challenge. Like, it's a little melodramatic. But
maybe the real reason is he kind of wanted to lose the dad bod.
He's like, I'm out here. I don't have my gym pass, so I'm gonna run up and down the beach. Amber. Yeah. Okay. So why don't the 11 of them just be like, okay, you 6 go and do it, and we'll all, you know, we'll all get 1 each or something like that. Right. You flip for the extra one or something. I guess you would never be allowed to do that. The producers would
I think that they edited this show with so much focus on that on Edge with another 2 tokens going to 6 people because they're leading into next episode when someone will return for a challenge, and the tokens mean something. So because you can use them to bypass a section of the challenge and stuff like that. So they wanted to probably focus a little bit on who was getting tokens, and you know who might have a better chance of buying their way through one of the.
Oh, Natalie.
The next
one. Yeah, Natalie. What does Natalie have? 11 by now, and plus an idol the last time she bought.
She has at least 8 because she got 6 last episode, and then another 2 today or yesterday.
Wouldn't they have just solved this with a 100-meter dash down the beach? I think the exact same people are winning.
Absolutely.
Who cares, right?
Yeah.
You know,
but we have to exhaust people.
It felt a bit recycled to me because I kept thinking they had the hero narrative earlier with Ethan when he slept all the wood. For me, I kept thinking, okay, so it felt a bit recycled. Like
Mhm.
I needed something different for a challenge like that.
Yeah, it's the same challenge.
That was the thing. So
Yeah,
Boston Rob got the Ethan one where everyone was doing the, we're all rallying around the flag for Ethan thing, and then Boston Rob, I was like,
But none of them went with Rob. He went by himself.
And Natalie at one point was like, "Why is he doing this? Like,
because he's on TV. He's
I feel like it was partially a pride thing too, and like, proving to his kids that he can do this, ending on a high note. Like, he might not get back in the game. Like, I don't know.
I
think
think
it was
proving to his kids he's won the game. He's played 9 times. Like,
I know, but it's just like if you
was
give up on the last challenge and then you lose out and don't get back in the game, it's like you're kind of like taken down a notch. So I don't know.
You know what a better lesson for your kids is? Know when to quit.
That's gonna be.
What's that, Greg?
They played this game so long ago. It doesn't air right away. They have no idea what they're gonna, how the cut of the episode's gonna go.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, look, we're talking about it, so obviously, the producers are doing something right. Because, yeah, I'm sure there's part of the show where they're like, "Oh, the fans are gonna hate this. Let's just crank it up." They did. So we watched Cagayan. I'm just gonna say about Cagayan. They did the loved ones visit with how many to go? 4?
Yeah.
4.
Wow.
We saw it with 10, plus the other 9. It's garbage.
They didn't even take them out one by one. They didn't do the, here's this person. I think they just all came and it was like, I was hoping for my wife, but I guess she can't bring the 4-month-old baby around.
So Tony's other bald cop buddy comes out.
He was so disappointed. He kept talking about how disappointed he was.
No offense to the bald community or anything, but it was like a Tony clone. It's like a schlubbier Tony. Sorry, we're talking about Surviving Cagayan. That's neither here nor there. So yeah, The Edge of Extinction, I've heard this mentioned before. Why not do this on CBS All Access? If you want to watch Edge of Extinction, go do a half-hour piece on whatever the hell happened on Edge of Extinction. They could do a little summary. Oh, there was a challenge, and so-and-so got, 2 fire tokens, and here's the list of people who got fire tokens. If you want to see more, go to CBS.com or pay for All Access. It's a great opportunity.
Survivor After Dark thing?
Survivor After Dark. Oh, Survivor After Dark. No.
Not much going on there.
Lubed up with rum cocktails.
It's just camp
syphilitic
life.
hotties to... Sorry, what?
It's just camp life through the night.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's not going to be that exciting. But they could spice it up in some ways.
With syphilitic hotties, as you suggested?
Well, I probably shouldn't have gone that far. So apart from Edge of Extinction, right after the tribal, very early in the episode, and I'll kind of run through this as quick as I can here. I love to see the interplay between Tony and Sarah when Sarah's just bitching him out after the tribal, and they're just yelling at one another. And what I wondered is, are they doing this within earshot of the tribe?
It sounded like it.
Yeah, it sounded like it.
They cut back. It sounded like it because they kept cutting back but no one could be that stupid. Where Sarah's like, I don't think we have the numbers anymore. I don't think they're on my side. Tony, Sarah, I swear to God, no, I swear on my kids. I swear on my family. In Cagayan, they do a medley, like a whole medley of Tony swearing on this person, and then that person, and then his badge, and then his dead dad. It's like, I swear on my dead dad. Literally those terms. And if there's how Sarah, after 3 seasons of playing with this guy, would actually buy I swear on my family.
Right?
Shocking.
I think Sarah can trust Tony to take her, though, at this point. I think he would, because he can win against anybody, so why not take Sarah? She'll be one embittered jury. You can't send her to the jury. She'll try to turn everyone against them. Tony has to have Sarah as his ride or die at this point.
All the way to the end?
All the way to the end.
I think I was thinking about this earlier, or maybe when me and Ryan were talking this afternoon, is that I think Tony taking Sarah, no problem. I think the jury would probably vote Tony over Sarah. But if Sarah goes to the end and she has a choice, she's got to get rid of Tony.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Tony wins. Like, they can't be there together. Sarah doesn't win.
And she can't even let him make fire either. She's got to get him at 5, at least, at the very latest at 5.
You can play that idol up till 5, I think, right?
Yeah.
So they have to get him at 7 or they have to get him at 6.
Well, I'm guessing next, like if anyone knows what they're doing, this vote now at 7 should be a 3-2 split. 3 votes on Tony, 2 on Sarah. That's what it needs to be. If anyone else wants to win.
Too. Yeah. I was thinking that too, and I don't think Ben will do it because he's an idiot.
Yeah.
What is Ben's game plan?
I wish we had some idea also of if next week is a 2-hour episode and then it's the 3-hour finale. I really wonder if next episode, the 2-hour one, is the one where someone does come back from the edge, and that makes that brings a body back. So that throws off the how many people, like the 7 vote or the whatever.
I hope it is when they bring someone back, because I hate when they bring in that player like very late in the game. So this would be the preferable episode to bring someone back.
Yeah.
My guess is you're getting 2 people voted out next episode, and we're going to see the returnee at the very beginning of the finale. I would love it if they did it at the beginning of next episode. I think if they did, then we would see in the next time on Survivor, the people, the Edge of Extinction folk lining up to do a challenge. I think we would.
Well, there was a next time on Survivor, and they did show stuff going on the Edge of Extinction, because Rob was like running through the water because someone was like, maybe that has something to do with the challenge. I don't know.
Oh, right, yeah.
I got a feeling it's not happening, but fingers crossed that it does.
So you're thinking they're coming at 5 again?
I think they're coming in at 5.
Makes sense.
I don't know.
From a drama standpoint, I think it makes sense to have someone eliminated in the first 40 minutes of the show, bring someone back, and then have another elimination, because then you got 2 votes at 7, right? Which is more interesting than a vote at 8.
Agreed. 7's a really interesting vote where things can actually happen. I was surprised that so much stuff went down at 8, but if you look at it, it was kind of a by the number, not a by the numbers, but like you say, maybe it was ironclad. And I don't know. The Michelle thing kind of weirds it out a little bit, but I don't think it was necessarily as close maybe as we think it is. So yeah, I hope so. I think that'd be great to have somebody back next episode, and then leave the finale for the actual finale. We watched the Cagayan finale. It's still 3 hours long. There's only 4 people in the episode, right? We're going to have 8 people or something, or 7, or whatever the hell it is, on the finale episode. So I don't know. Look, I get 5 more hours of Survivor this year. I love it. I really hope they don't give any kind of idol to the returning player. I think I really want to see the player come back in and then go right back out. I can't think of anybody who I really want them to come back and win the game. Like, I want Tony to win the game. And I don't have Tony in my pool. I want him to win the game.
Yeah.
I think it's who else do you want?
No, not at this point.
I wonder if Tony got voted out next and then won his way back in, do you think people would still consider him?
Yes.
Because,
But also, there's very little chance he could win his way back in. Natalie's got 8 immune tokens, right? She's going to buy 3 advantages.
It's such a disadvantage for people who've lasted longer.
I know. It still makes no sense.
I'd say they should tweak the format.
I mentioned this last week, as I initially I really liked the fire token twist, because they were doing some interesting things on Edge of Extinction, sending idols and advantages into the game, and people could buy them. But I feel like now there's so many, it seems like they're putting so much focus on fire tokens, like people who win individual immunity this episode got 2 each. And everything's about fire tokens, and people on Edge of Extinction are getting fire tokens. I see for them because they can use them to help themselves in the challenge. But in the game, when you're in the game, I feel like there's almost no use for them other than using them to, buy peanut butter or something like that.
I don't know.
There needs to be some more of an element to them.
Yeah, there needs to be more of a payoff if you're making a bargain to get somene's fire token.
Like Nick
in the challenge.
Yeah, like Nick getting his fire token was a ridiculous.
Like for what?
For what? So maybe they know something, right? Maybe they have some intel that we, the viewer, don't.
Possibly. That was quite. We didn't talk about that, but Nick's got to be going out anyway. So he's last minute. He's like, "Oh, I'll do it for a fire token," and he knows he's going to lose. But that's a very, very, very small price to pay for immunity for Tony.
Yeah, for sure. It's not like he's just wasting away like he needs the peanut butter or something.
Yeah, Nick still looks like he's not struggling out there. And we saw Tony with an entire coconut full of rice. It was like a snow cone. It was just bulging, drip, fall, rice bits fall everywhere. Just a couple things I wanted to talk about that I thought were funny. Just funny moments where Tony and Ben are talking in the dark, and then Tony's like, "What the fuck is that?" And Ben's like, "You just got shit on, dude." He's like, "But what? A bird?" And Tony's like, What bird's in the nighttime?" He's like, "I think it was a bat." "A bat? Is that good or bad?" I think they must have put that in because of the coronavirus, right? They're like, "We could cut that, but this is where it started, guys. This is where it all began."
The bat.
Spy Nest, big failure.
I love it. So apparently this is Tony. Like, even if you listen to the Malcolm podcast with Rob Cesternino, he says that this isn't just Tony in Survivor. This is how Tony acts in real life. He just has he's a ball of energy.
Yeah. No, I mean, even if it's to no avail, he's just bored. He's got nothing to do. Well, I guess I'll climb up this tree. And then I love that the only one who comes by is Sarah. "It's just me, Tony. Can you see me at all? You're fucking golden, Tony."
The camera's shooting up at him in the tree.
That was awesome.
It's so great. So yeah, no, that's good. Paul, did you listen to the Troyzan podcast this week?
No, I haven't had a chance yet.
You should listen to it. It's actually, Troy has a lot of insight. Troyzan played with
Kim,
Tony, Kim, Sarah, Sandra, a bunch of people, and he actually is a huge fan of the show. Despite being portrayed as a bit of a clown on the show, it was a good podcast.
Nice.
Right. So
what about Ben finding the idol right in front of Tony? And
oh, yeah, that was great.
Trying to pretend that he ddidn't find it right in front of Tony.
Yeah, Ben is so stupid. He is. It's so bad. I mean, he's right there. "Hey, Ben, man, come on. I can see it." He's hugging him, fist bumping him, stuff, as if that was part of the plan. And then you go to the confessional. It's like, "Oh yeah, stupid me. Just as an instinct, I tried to hide it, and then Tony was right there. I got caught red-handed." You got no game plan. I went and watched an Entertainment Tonight Canada interview with Ben before he started the game, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't really have a game plan." No shit. Because I thought, well, what's Ben's? Maybe there's something nuanced here that I'm not seeing. Nothing. You see him at Tribal, he's staring off. Tony and Jeremy are talking, staring at people, flabbergasted. Like he doesn't know anything that's going on. I don't know what his game plan is. I'm interested in what everyone's game plan is, but I have no idea what that.
Ben's game plan is to vote Jeremy out because he's really scared of Jeremy.
That's it.
I don't know I can't remember what happened and why they're like at each other so much. What was it that happened that Ben will not talk to Jeremy at all?
Nothing.
Jeremy didn't get voted out when Ben wanted him to get voted out. Twice. Now he's super mad.
And Ben wanted him out for what reason? Just because he thinks he's a threat? So trying to get him out?
Yeah.
Because Ben's not really a very good player. He wasn't really a very good player in his first season, and he's not a very good player now.
I thought maybe I missed something because I was wondering why the hell he just doesn't want to have anything to do with him.
Yeah, Jeremy can't figure it out either.
Yeah, you see that. Jeremy's just like, "You're a child. He's a child. I have no idea. Grow up, man. It's season 40, man." Ridiculous. I like that Nick identified two things I like about Nick. He identifies that Jeremy, Tony, and Sarah are all the people that can beat him, and then he votes with them.
Right?
He name checks those people and then votes with them. And also, I like how he goes to confessional wearing a suit jacket and no shirt. I think that's a great look. I really like it a lot. That's it. That's all I have to say about Nick.
I did like that moment. Was it Ben and Tony that were talking? And Tony was like, "That was like 4 hours ago, man."
Are you still worried about that? That was 4 hours ago.
That's really funny. Yeah, and Tony's like, yeah, usually you blindside someone, you come back, you sit around, you talk about it, everyone gets over it. Not this time. Sarah, please don't. Because Sarah's like, Tony, I will never speak to you again, like outside of the game. That's cool, dude.
Yes.
I love their relationship. I think it's so interesting. Immunity challenge, anything. I think we talked through the immunity challenge already. I like that challenge. Whatever. It's not an endurance challenge anymore. And
I have one more point. I don't understand why there was a male and female winner for that one when there aren't for many others, like the last one where they had to hold that really heavy pole where no female could even do it for a second when they got to the third stage. And this one, I think the females could have easily lasted as long as the male. You're just holding your arm up. My
No,
arm's
the females
lighter than
would have
yours.
won. It would have been 4 like ladies standing at the end because it's all about your weight ratio with your
Exactly.
arms, right?
So why this one did they have a male-female winner and the other ones that are evidently more favored to one gender? Like,
because the production needed to protect Tony.
I saw. Okay, so somebody tweeted out. God, Cass McQuillan, who was on a couple seasons, original one with Tony.
I know her.
Cass.
You know Cass well. So she pointed out via Twitter that Tony was the only person whose arm was actually bent, meaning he had a little more wiggle room. Now I went back and watched it again. It's a little bent, but everyone else is pretty straight. So she says, "Why does Tony? It's Tony the only one whose arm's bent?" And Michelle Fitzgerald responds to Cass. That's a great question, Cass.
Whoa.
I have no idea. I'm not a conspiracy theorist when it comes to Survivor. I do think it is in the show's best interest for Tony to win the show at this point. I think if you have Nick Wilson as your season 40 winner, it's a bit of a blemish.
Yeah.
I don't know.
If you had lost, let's say you lost like 3 episodes, you lost Tony and Jeremy pretty early. You don't really have a dynamic cast for the rest of the season.
Well, I was going to say, like, and I hate to even say this about the show, but I wonder if the show, like, if it's a male-female thing, like you want to give females more of a shot in certain things, I wonder if it's the reverse. I wonder if the show wants to make sure there is a guy who also is safe, as opposed to we want to make sure a girl is safe. So the most challenges that, you know, a guy may easily win, like that pole one, there's no 2 advantages, there's no 2 immunities, but one like this, where a girl would easily outlast a guy, they have 2 to make sure another guy is safe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's they tell me all this stuff, like they've said all this stuff is set up in advance, but I'm guessing there's some production interference when it comes to protecting certain players, and I've had that suspicion for years.
Me too.
I don't think there's a vast conspiracy. I don't think production tells so-and-so to vote so-and-so out.
No.
You know, but in terms of them wanting more dynamic winners, like, you know, Jeff's been disappointed in several of the winners over the years, including Michelle. There hasn't been a female who's won in a while, though, which I think is a bit of a bummer, honestly. I watched the season 39 finale last night because I had nothing going on. Watching Tommy win or whatever. I was like, Tommy's just not that dynamic.
Was so boring.
It was boring, and then I couldn't remember who was on the show, like Nora and Dean and all these losers. But you know,
I like Nora.
She's a fun character for sure. Okay, I'd rather she was on this season, I think, than look. Kim's a great player. Denise is a great player. Sophie's a great player. Not always the most amazing television.
Yeah, but I don't know. If there's 2 people that win immunity, and whether it doesn't matter if it's a male or a female, when they go back to camp, they still have that's throws in a wrench into everyone's plan, right? If it's one person, then it's obvious, like they can only strategize again around that one person. When there's 2, it makes it more difficult. And I guess if there's a male and a female and they're not having like a boys alliance and a girls alliance, then the odds of somebody in each of those alliance winning immunity is more likely to happen. Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
I mean, I like it earlier on in, you know, when you've got 12 left or something like that, but it's a lot of people who are
like it when there is an obvious disadvantage to being a small person, right?
Yeah, the one where they're holding the pole like that.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no girl who's winning that. It's impossible.
No.
Those things weigh more than they do.
Not. Yeah.
Especially when they stepped back one. Like
Yeah, no, exactly.
Sophie,
That's what
who's
I'm
a
saying.
really
I
good
think
athlete.
it makes sense there. It's just this one, it made absolutely no sense, especially with less people.
Yeah, I think there are, as Grant points out, there's some interesting elements to it via production, etc.
Yeah.
What can we do? That's the way it kind of played out, and I think it works in our favor as viewers as Tony wins his third in a row. So
Yeah.
he's never won one before. It's so great.
Yeah.
He never needed to win one before, to be fair.
Which immunity challenge will they design that Tony was going to dominate next time? They're going to look through all the immunity challenges and be like, what will Tony be good at?
No puzzles.
Yeah.
No puzzles.
Love him on the slide puzzle. They cut back to him. He's just doing it faster. He's not doing it in any order. He's just moving his arms faster. He's awful at
Sets
it.
him up pretty good too because he still has a hidden immunity idol, right? So next episode there's 2 vote outs. So if he can escape one and use an idol for another, he's in the final show at least with the final 6.
He's starting to rack up some.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying he's starting to rack up tokens again. So like he could be getting another advantage sometime soon too. So.
Yeah, there's got to be some final advantage that those tokens are good for. There's nothing you can use them for now, but there has to be some reason they're still accumulating these things. Yeah. It's not to buy a tarp.
No.
Not at this point.
Stage, yeah.
Has it even rained on this season?
What's that?
Has it even rained on this season?
There was one day, like the challenge where Sophie was like
cold,
remember? Yeah.
Yeah,
that was great. That was really, that was an interesting moment there. Okay, so I think that's it for the episode. Anything else that you guys had that you wanted to talk about from this episode in particular?
I was just going to mention, I think it's really smart of Tony to have told Nick and Ben that he has an immunity idol. I don't think it's just to form bonds with them. I think it just is kind of letting them know that, look, I'm not an easy target, and they have to look elsewhere.
Big time.
Yeah.
Tony leveraged his idols in Cagayan so well. And look, so Greg mentioned hidden immunity idol. There's nothing hidden about Tony's idol anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's whipping it out at Tribal. Everyone kind of knows where everybody stands now. There might be a couple people who don't know Ben has an idol. Who cares? Who cares? Everyone's taking Ben at this point, or Nick.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody's like, we got to get rid of Ben. Ben's a number for Tony. I don't know how Tony goes anywhere right now. It's going to be interesting. Maybe if we can get that person back into the game at the beginning of next episode, you could use that additional person to leverage something against Tony. But Paul's right. You got to do the 3-2-2. That can take out either Jeremy or Tony. Otherwise, it's not happening. If one of those 2 guys wins immunity, you're effectively hooped.
No, I think you got to do it against Sarah. Sorry, you got to do it against Sarah and Tony.
Sorry, yeah, you're right. No, you're right. Sarah and Tony. No, you're 100% right. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's dive into Greg here with spreadsheet talk. Greg, you got anything exciting to talk about with the spreadsheet this week? I am blown away by the movements that have been made. I am your wife came out of what, 28th place or something?
No, she was in 21st.
Oh, well, okay, well, in the 20s somewhere, and is now sitting in.
It was last week. Right. She moved from 21st to 3rd because she had Tony and all of Tony's points, and also she had Natalie, who got all those 6 tokens. But because she had those 2 people, she made a huge jump.
Yeah, it's really heavily weighted for these immunity wins.
Yeah. No, it's not the immunity wins, man. It's the tokens.
Fire tokens.
Yeah, but you get 2 tokens for an immunity win, so now you get 25 instead of 15 points.
Yeah.
Yeah, we discussed that today. We may have prematurely allocated points to the tokens based on their usage, given that we had no idea how they'd be involved. I say this every week, so I do my best. Yeah. All right. Paul, you've been leading for like 7 weeks in a row.
I'm barely hanging on now. I got like a 12-point lead. You
got no Tony. You really got to be pulling for a Denise win.
I'd rather lose the pool and see Tony win.
Totally. I got no problem with that. Yeah. I got no problem with
that. So, yeah, they're on the spreadsheet as far as points, nothing special really happened. 2 individual immunities, 1 idle fine for Ben, and a bunch of fire tokens for the people on Edge of Extinction, and a couple changing hands in the game.
For those of you who have not seen the spreadsheet to this point, or those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, Tony has 186 points on his own. The next closest is Denise with 136. And then you have yourself, let's see who we got here.
Natalie.
Amber's got 29.
Wow.
So that sucks for the one person who picked Amber.
This is the interesting thing is Natalie, the first vote out, going to Edge of Extinction, has the third most points of all of the survivors.
I kind of like it. I think she's played better than, I mean, come on, she deserves more points than Ben. She deserves more points than Nick. She's played way harder.
Part of me wants her to get back into the game.
I think she's coming back.
Yeah.
I think she's probably coming back.
Yeah.
I don't know who else would be. She gets, I don't know.
Sophie, maybe.
I'd love to see Sophie come back. That'd be amazing. I don't think she's coming back.
No, I don't think so.
She's very strong. How do you like that? Did you guys predict sorry to get back to Edge, but the order of finish for that challenge?
I love that Natalie's just like, I just had to beat her just because. Like,
just because, yeah.
Because I could.
First place, Natalie. Second place, Sophie. Amazing. Then Yule comes trotting in. We got Tyson and Parv, and then Wendell. Who are the 6 I would have thought would have finished it, but I'm pretty impressed by Natalie and Sophie. Probably, I mean, you don't see Sophie coming, but she's actually quite an athlete from what I understand.
I thought Rob would have taken one of those spots before he smashed his elbow up. Maybe.
Yeah, tough to say. I don't know if he has the endurance.
Started too fast, you know.
I don't know if that elbow.
He shot out like a cannon and then he just petered out. What's that?
I don't know if that elbow would have actually prevented him from running faster.
He's like, I'm done. Oh, I'm done. I can't do anymore. I'm gonna go home. I thought he was leaving. I thought he was quitting the game.
No, I know too, but I'm just saying, like, if he could finish, you think he could still finish somewhat fast with a hurt elbow?
Yeah.
It'd be great if he left the game though, and then next challenge, whoever wins, they get to have a meeting with like Rob and Sandra and give them like some advice.
Oh my God, dude, that's a premise. That's a premise right there. We got to call Probst. We got to call Matt Van Wagenen. We got to call Mark Burnett.
Did anyone see Amber even go to the coconuts once?
No,
I don't think she bothered. That's what, and I really appreciate not bothering if you're not going to win.
Yeah, like.
Yeah, no, I would have.
She knows her limitations.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Greg, we good for the spreadsheet?
Yeah, unless anyone has questions, but it's pretty straightforward today.
Thanks for getting it up so fast. I really, really appreciate it. You're doing a bonkers good job considering how much shit's going on. I mean, the amount of points we're throwing around here is ridiculous. And we still got 5 hours left. Someone's going to win with 1,000 points this year. Whatever. We're probably not seeing Survivor again for a year, 8 months. I mean, maybe Greg and I talked about it today. Maybe they film one in the fall and we get to see it next February, but they're not doing anything anytime soon. So we'll have some discussions and we'll be taking suggestions on how we explore things.
Even though there's lots of points going out, first, second, and third are only separated by like 13 or so points.
It is true.
Yeah, like 11 points. So 11 points is easy to make up in that, especially with 30 points to the sole survivor. And
I'm not winning this thing anymore.
You're going down, Paul.
Yeah, you're so in love with Tony. Why didn't you pick him? He's going to be your downfall in this.
I know. Well, you know what? I'm a big Tony fan, but I picked him when he played in Game Changers. I went in Game Changers. I picked everyone I liked, and I came in last place.
If you picked Tony, you'd be so far ahead right now.
Well, I didn't expect him to get this far. These people are dumb.
We had 5-6 people pick Tony. I'm blown away that people did, and I'm really impressed by the savviness to pick Tony because I thought he was done first or second, and I can't believe he's not. I still can't believe he's in the game. I still can't believe Sarah believes anything he says, but they're real close in real life. So, Paul, let's turn over to Paul. I'm very interested to hear Paul's. Paul, you doing your player of the game?
No, because it's just going to be Tony until he gets voted out, and then it's going to be whoever voted Tony out. So.
I was going to say that I think that peanut butter should be the player of the game. Because I think there was a huge change in gameplay. As soon as the peanut butter came out, that ended the challenge right there. Mm-hmm. It took Kim out of it, who ultimately gets voted out. It takes Nick out, allowing Tony to win. I think peanut butter. I think we give the whatever we're calling the Paul Sykes Award. You got to come up with a funny name for the award, by the way. We'll think about it.
I'll get on that.
Yeah, it's not going to be
I'll
the
put it on the
Sykes.
back burner. Yeah.
We'll put that one on the back burner for a few years. Okay, so Tony, so do you want to give us your top 5 seasons of all time? People were looking for a rewatch. They're like, I'm sitting here during COVID, not necessarily even a rewatch, but is there a good season, favorite season that I should watch? So Paul's going to tell us about his top 5 seasons if you guys are looking to do this. And then we're going to just have Katelyn come in and talk about Cagayan, because we did a Cagayan rewatch. If people are thinking about it at all, rewatching a season, people clearly not interested in this.
I'm looking for a pen. I want to write this down.
Hey, you guys don't have. Oh, so good. Thanks. Okay, great. I'm glad somebody is. Paul, go ahead.
Well, now that everyone's left, I'm only going to talk for 2 minutes. So, okay. So do you have the cast list queued up for this, or like the cast photos, or no?
I have one of them.
Okay, don't worry about it.
I thought you were doing the player of the game tonight. I screwed up, so go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so season 5, my 5th favorite season is going to be Survivor Vanuatu, and I'm guessing that's season 9, 8 or 9, right?
It's 9.
It's 9. Okay. What I love this season is because Jeff Probst hates it. Like, it's a season where it's a very unpredictable boot. All like the super fit men go home. That's probably one of the reasons it sticks in Jeff's craw, because he's unable to maintain an erection throughout the rest of the season because he has no one to kind of fanboy over. And like the Fat Five take over. They run the game on the men's side. It's got some really good characters: Twyla, Eliza.
Don't spoil the season, by the way. You know not to spoil the season, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, of course. Really unpredictable, really underrated, and it kind of gets lost in the shuffle. They should have had a lot of more returning players than they did.
Yeah, they had a couple players come back. Amy came back, and Eliza Orleans came back. I think this is a criminally underrated season. If you're looking to go old school Survivor, this is one that not that many people remember or have seen. The gameplay is fantastic. The winner, really great winner, comes out of nowhere. I love it. Survivor Vanuatu. I think that might be one of the next ones I do a rewatch on.
Yeah, it's well worth a rewatch.
That's season 9, you guys. Season 9.
Yeah. Okay. Number 4 is Pearl Islands. I think it's
amazing.
season 7.
Season 7.
Right?
Pearl Islands is season 7, correct.
So see, it just has a great spirit to it. I guess it's like pirate themed, and this is when you get your first iteration of Rupert,
Pirates plunder.
Who at this point isn't totally insufferable. Like he's a character at this point, right?
This is the one season we can tolerate Rupert, and it goes downhill.
Absolutely. So he's got one of the most iconic heroes. It's probably got, I think, one of the top 3 iconic villains. Probably my favorite villain.
I'd probably agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Johnny Fairplay.
Johnny Fairplay.
Yeah.
And the famous dead grandmother.
Yeah. So it's just got a really a fun spirit. Also unpredictable. Yeah. Ryan, you got anything to say about Pearl Islands?
Love Pearl Islands. It's a top 5 season for me as well. And I put Vanuatu in there. I just can't say right now because I haven't seen it in so long. Love Pearl Islands. It's a definitive series. It brings the Outcasts in, which is the first season to ever bring people back who were voted out. We had 2 people come back in who played pretty big factors in the game. It had lots of characters have come back. Rupert, Johnny Fairplay came back. Andrew Savage has come back from that show. And it's fantastic. Everything. I mean, the votes, some of them are a little bit straightforward, but I don't know. There's a lot of hubris in a guy like Andrew Savage, and you'd love to see certain people get voted out. You'd love to hate Fairplay. He pulls off one of the greatest moves of all time. It's tremendous. It's a fantastic season. So yeah, if you like Rupert, if you're one of those Rupert people out there, and somebody must be, this is the absolute best iteration of Rupert.
Yeah, I did a rewatch of this probably about 4 years ago, and I was worried that going back to early seasons, I was going to be bored out of my mind. But no, this season delivers still.
Delivers. I love it. Yeah, I do like the Outcast twist too. At the time, it was very controversial. The first time they brought players back, it was like, if you're voted out, you're done. And this is the first time they did it. And in retrospect, I think it's given what we see now, it's not a bad way to have done it.
And cool. both returning Outcasts factor prominently into the game.
Prominently, yeah. So that's season 7, Pearl Islands.
Okay. Now, number 3, I'm not going to say too much about it because Katelyn's going to talk about it, but it's Cagayan with Tony's first season. And so that's all I'll say because it's an amazing guy. If you like Tony, if you're enjoying Tony this season, check it out.
Oh, my God. Yeah, we'll get into it in a bit. But if you're like you're loving Tony, you're gonna love Tony 3.0. You're gonna love Tony 1.0. It's I just needed more of him. I saw that episode last week and I was all fired up and I was like, I need more Tony. And we got 13 episodes of Tony. It was awesome. Okay, so Cagayan at number 3. Coming in number 2.
Number 2 is Survivor Micronesia, fans versus favorites. I believe number 16, I think.
Yes, that is season 16. We're going really old school here, except for Cagayan, which is 28. Okay, so season 16.
Now season 16, this has so many iconic moments. I don't know if it has the best cast list of all time. I don't know how interesting a lot of these guys are, but this season turns out amazingly well. There's some of the moments that happen where that's not an idol, that's a fucking stick moment, are some of the most like if you haven't seen that, it's an amazing Survivor moment. It also has Eric Reichenbach giving up a hidden immunity idol late in the game, and then
that was not a hidden immunity idol. That was the regular immunity idol.
That was the regular immunity idol, right? Absolutely. It has, I think, the first successful iteration of the all-female alliance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Probably the best. I mean, not the best, but a very, very dominant alliance. So good.
Very dominant alliance, and we're unlike Kim Powers' season where she was pretty much the alliance. This has a lot of people in it. You know, Suri Fields is in it. Poverty, Amanda, Natalie. It's a real strong all-female alliance there.
It is, and you get to see some people get serious comeuppances. There's incredible comeuppances in this one. People who you kind of are happy to see go. There's some character moments with it's fans versus favorites. You got 8 or 10 returning favorites, I want to say, and then 8 fans. And some of these fans are just terrible, and they have no shot. Yeah. They got nothing.
Yeah, they're
it's so unfair, these 50-50 seasons. The returning players are so good. But yeah, if you want iconic moments, you see the show now, they'll go back. What did they have a couple of years ago? Ghost Island, where they're going back and showing all these moments. These are some of the moments that always come up in these retrospective little montages. A lot of them are from Micronesia. I recommend that as well. Okay, and number 1, I think I know where you're going with this. I forgot, but I think I know where you're going with this.
The number 1 can only be heroes versus villains. Now, from a pure production standpoint, this season is amazing. From the moment it blares the music and they arrive in helicopters and you see all the heroes and the villains get off the helicopters one at a time, and from that point there's no letdown. The season
doesn't let up.
It doesn't let up. There's very unpredictable things happen. Sometimes you question why they happen. You question the production.
Yeah, there's one specific one, but yeah.
One specific moment. But I think everyone is given, every single person, with maybe a couple of exceptions, is either given the chance to kind of cement their legacy or completely tarnish it. And they do in spectacular fashion to some of them.
Some of them flame out so bad we've never seen them again or even heard talks of them again. Yeah,
absolutely.
And some of them burn bridges with the show really badly.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of them just James was just an asshole this season. Stephanie,
some real character turns. Yeah,
some real character turns. Right.
And you're like, well, these are the heroes.
Yeah,
you cheer for the villains, I think, in this show.
Oh, and this, you absolutely. I mean, the villain, even Coach comes across as somewhat likable in this season, as I recall, and that's a hard thing to do.
Colby getting owned by Coach. Oh. The first challenge of that show is it just sucks you right in. It's so violent.
It is really violent. It is one of the most violent physical confrontations they have. It's great.
They don't do that anymore. They don't have violent competitions anymore. Like the thing where they're pushing people off with the giant Q-tips or whatever. I love that.
Yeah, they pulled back on that quite a bit, which is too bad because it creates a lot of. And what I like about these seasons that I mentioned is there's still a lot of bitterness and salt in some of these seasons. And I think in the later, and I'm not saying that everyone has to take a bitter feud to the end of time, but I like when people are a little bit salty on things that happened in the game. And I think in the later seasons, everyone is bending over backwards to be the best sportsman. And I think that takes away a little bit from it. Whereas, there's some bad blood in this season.
Oh, big time. It kind of goes on for years in some cases. It's mandatory viewing if you're a Survivor fan. There's a few people that are on this season that were on that season. That was the last time they played. That was Parv's last season. That wasn't Rob's last season, but almost. Mm-hmm. Tyson's on that season. Sandra's on that season. So I don't know if you like any of these players. And then you got the great Russell Hantz,
right?
Who is fantastic TV, but he's like Tony, but just a shitty human being.
Yeah. This is the last time Russell Hantz I should have mentioned Russell Hantz if you're going to mention this season, but this is the last season where Russell Hantz is even remotely tolerable as a human being. Yeah. And he quickly wears out his welcome as the season goes along.
Boston Rob, I don't even like the Boston Red Sox. It's the Houston Astros, baby.
What are you talking about?
Sandra, you're either with me or you're against me. I'm against you, Russell.
Sandra comes off as a gangster this season too.
Big time. It's so great. It's so great. Excellent. I love it. I love those picks. Does anyone have any questions about these picks, or should we? I'd love to hear what other people's favorite seasons are. Maybe at some point in the future, you guys want to think about that. Throw anything out there. Any hot takes you guys have on these seasons or questions? All right, so we did a Cagayan rewatch this weekend. I'll turn it over to Katelyn, Katelyn is new to Survivor-ish. Katelyn, how many seasons have you seen? 3 or 4?
Oh, probably like 8.
Okay, but recently you've come back.
Recently, yes, 3 or 4.
Sure, and so you missed basically the middle 34 seasons. You didn't know who Tony was. You didn't know who Sarah was. Half of these people, you've seen Wendell before.
Yeah, that's why I like Nick a little bit. You guys are all hating on him. I'm like, he's okay.
No, in his season, he was fine.
Sure.
Yeah, in his season,
Yeah, I thought he was okay. Like, I actually kind of liked him on his season.
Yeah, so, it was, even though I did know who won, it was still extremely interesting to watch. And I think also what made it interesting to watch was watching episodes back to back to back to back within 2 or 3 days, because you remember them so vividly. You can really see the strategy develop. Now when we're recounting what happened 6 weeks ago, and even in this season, it's hard to remember. But it was really obvious the way that Tony took control, and it seems so obvious, and you almost can't believe that people are letting it happen. So it was really interesting to see the strategy develop, and it was really just fun to see Tony, and just kind of hilarious. And it put a lot of insight to this season, because you can see the Sarah-Tony dynamic, and I'm surprised that she's actually that trusting of him. So I would definitely suggest watching something within 2 days, because you just get a lot more insight for it.
Yeah.
Did you like sorry, go ahead, Paul.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, did you like the season overall then?
Oh, absolutely. I thought it was really interesting. I don't know. I don't want to spoil it now.
Don't spoil it.
So it was a really, really interesting dynamic of people, because the basis of it is that there's brains, beauties, and bronze. And so fairly different mindsets in all of these different tribes. And then they mix it up quite a bit, and people just have to interact with people that they're completely different from. And I just thought they did a really good casting job. There's some nut bars on it for sure. That made the first few episodes interesting and all that. And then
Jatia,
Garrett Adelstein, some of the worst contestants in the history.
It is frustrating at some point, because you're just it's such a poor play that you know that you could do at least better than that person. And so it was really interesting though to see Tony, and it just made me just watch it, because obviously we watched it this weekend, so this is the first episode that I've seen since that watch, and it just made me so much more in tune with Tony's ability to read people and to strategize, and it just made me appreciate his gameplay a lot more, because I wasn't really as in tune with it the previous week, even though he had done a big move. And again, this week he'd done a big move, but it just made more sense to me how he did it. And
yeah, for sure. Tony's the star of that season, but it's a phenomenal cast too. There's a lot of really good bit players, or even players that go deeper into the game that would play against. Spencer comes to mind. Cass. I'm not a fan of Wu, but Wu would play again too. And
gotta get a fat dip of that guac, man.
Yeah.
Just imagine eating the meat, bro.
Nick might be
imagine young Wu Hong, the winner of Survivor. Terrible, but he's really likable.
He's a likable guy.
Absolutely, I really liked him. But now Nick is reminding me of that. He's filling that void for Tony, I feel.
Right.
Yeah, like a blank slate who you could just write all over.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I see
Yeah.
that now with Nick. I see that relationship with him and Nick after seeing it with Wu and Tony.
One of my favorite moments in this season is just that, like, this guy Garrett comes in, and he comes in at under 5% body fat, and this guy is starving within 4 hours of hitting the beach. Like, it's just a ridiculous move.
And every move that he makes is so stupid. He's awful at the game. He finds an immunity idol, gets voted out with it. There's only 5 people in the game, and he still can't read that he's playing. There's no real dud episodes in the and there's 1 or 2 like mediocre people in the cast, but everyone else is just fantastic. Kelly and Steve, I kind of feel like I remember this is like back when I first moved to Victoria. I think this is when we were watching the show over at Kelly's house. Like, I have a feeling we all watched this together, but
I think so.
Yeah, I think it was the first Brains Bronze Beauty, because I remember coming over there pretty early for that.
I miss those nights. Nachos, wings, beer,
yeah, it was
Survivor. It was fun.
It was very fun. Yeah, absolutely. But this is fun, right?
This is totally fun in a very different way.
Katelyn, who are your favorite players from the show besides Tony?
I think what's his name? LJ?
Yeah.
I think he was really, really smart, and Tony recognized that so quickly that he got him out. Well, at some point, I won't say when. And I was really intrigued to see what he could have done. So he was one of my favorites.
You seem to be especially disappointed when LJ was voted out.
A lot of women were especially disappointed when LJ was voted out.
Yeah, well, that could add to it.
As disappointed as I was when Morgan was voted out.
Oh, Morgan, I can't tell if she's a person or a pillow. Classic Tony line. That is, and I don't want to go too offside here, but probably the most, I don't know how to even word it. How do we want to describe Morgan's assets?
Ample.
Abundant.
Yeah, but
abundant. Yeah, those work.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Even Morgan is kind of funny in a way. She's a terrible human being, but like,
yeah.
Morgan. Yeah. Obviously, she's just bitter because she's an old lady and she's not even cute at all.
Yeah.
Not even cute. Obviously, if you could choose to be ugly or cute, you're gonna choose cute. That's said at tribal council, not in a confession. Which is bizarre.
I think even some of the people who aren't given enough screen time, they could have shined in other seasons. I think it's a really good, like all in all, it's a good cast.
This is how you know it's a good cast. Of 18 people, 6 of the cast members have returned, many of them multiple times, including our favorite right now, Tony and Sarah Lucina. Great. Well, thanks. So you recommend watching the show. What's up next for us? What are we going to watch?
I was looking up. Was it season 16? One of your favorites, Paul?
Micronesia, yeah.
Yeah, I was looking up those seasons, and I sent everybody a link in the chat. I think it's also the best hair season of Survivor ever.
Okay.
You should look at those cast photos. Everybody's got like spectacular hair.
Hey.
Oh my god.
Well, interesting. So for Ozzy features on it, and most of you know who Ozzy is. He's like probably the best Survivor Challenge player. He's played 4 times. He's never won. He's not going to win, but he's an iconic Survivor character, I want to say. He's kind of a blank slate too, but he's okay. He's going to be doing a podcast. It's coming out tomorrow or maybe the next day on that Rob Has a Podcast that I like. So I know Steven listens to that from time to time, so if anyone's interested, they can listen to an interview with Ozzy. Yeah, hard pass probably. I'm going to listen to it. I don't know. I even think I might get a question on there because I think I asked a pretty good question.
Nice.
It was, what is Lindsay? Did you ever think that of you and Lindsay Lohan, who he used to date, you would be the more successful person?
I got a new segment that I want to do next week.
Okay, great.
It's the 5 top worst cast photos.
Okay, are you gonna call through them and find the worst?
I'm gonna go through them and pick my top 5 worst cast photos of all of the seasons.
All right, I got a nomination, but I won't say it. I want to see what you come up with, and then I'll give you one to myself next week. All right. If anyone else you guys, no one else is gonna go look through cast photos, but Junior's gonna do it. I'm looking forward to it. Does anyone else have anything they want to add on this spectacular evening celebrating a fantastic show yesterday. Everyone's good?
Good.
Thanks for sticking with us so late tonight, a little later than usual. I try to keep them tidier. We'll try next week. Fantastic job by Paul and Katelyn and Junior and all of you guys for showing up. You guys are the stalwarts. You guys have been here almost every episode. I really appreciate it. So glad you're enjoying this. We'll do it all again next week. Until then, got nothing else for ya.
See you, everyone.
You're on.
Hi, guys.